Total party kill. Hey there, friends. Welcome back. Common House Bard here. Have you ever had a game that just stalled out? Like your players, they just stopped showing up. It can be super frustrating as a DM when you've gone to all that trouble to write like the perfect campaign. You've got everything going and you think it went well, and then you ask your players, hey, when are we going to do this again? And you get crickets. Just silence. Or even worse, everybody kind of gives you that, oh yeah, we'll let you know, and then nobody lets you know. There's a lot of reasons why a campaign can stall out. I mean, you did it, right? You wrote the campaign, you bought the snacks, everybody agreed to show up, and then you run your game and it just splats. Today I'm going to talk about 5 common pitfalls that I see a lot of D&D campaigns suffer from, and how to fix them, or better yet, how to avoid them before we even start playing. Be on the lookout for these 5 things in your campaign, and if you can fix them, if you recognize them, I promise your players are going to come back, they're going to be excited to go, and you won't be able to schedule fast enough. Number 1, your players just don't click. So maybe you got a group of friends and everybody gets along great in every other context, but for whatever reason, when you guys sit down with a bunch of dice in front of you and you have fictional characters, it just everybody's ugliest tendencies come out. I don't know, maybe Bob and Sarah work together, and Bob didn't come in to relieve Sarah on time, so now Sarah's got a real-life axe to grind, so she's going to take her fantasy axe and grind it into Bob's skull. So as a DM, before you even start your campaign, you need to think about, like, how are your real-life humans going to interact with each other? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you can't have opposites at your table. Sometimes that real-world tension leads to a lot of really cool in-game moments. But the point is that you have to have people at your table that can separate the real world from the world you're building. Are there going to be real-world tensions that are going to interfere with the flow of your game? And if you got those 2 players and you want them both to play, maybe you consider running 2 parallel campaigns. So it can be a lot of work on you as the DM, but you also have a really cool, interesting opportunity here to maybe run parallel campaigns and see, with the same material and the same circumstances, what 2 different players do as they build towards that conclusion. Even better, you can take and if you've got one group that tends more towards evil and one group that tends more towards good, you can take them and run parallel campaigns, but from the opposite sides. So you've got your villains are actual player characters, and your good guys are actual player characters. And so take that real world tension that they might have between them and then let them build towards each other so that at the end, fighting each other is actually a really cool story device. Long story long, which is what I'm good at, consider your D&D table much like you would a dinner party. Don't seat antagonists next to each other. You're only going to end up managing a lot of difficult personalities, and that's only going to distract you from the story that you want to tell. Number 2, your PCs don't click. Nothing can be more frustrating than managing a group of players that is just diametrically opposed to each other. Like, say you have a paladin and a rogue, and the rogue tends to be a I'm going to steal everything rogue. Or say you've got like a paladin and an aspiring necromancer. Or maybe you've got a paladin and... Okay, I'm not only trying to pick on pallies here, but Jiminy Christmas, are they frustrating. So a great way that I've learned to solve these player tensions is to have that session 0. You have that session 0, you get all your players to sit down at the table, and you let them plan their group together. I write up a little campaign teaser, here's what the game world is like, here's some of the broad strokes, and you let them sit down with that information and let them plan a little bit. Like, it is a really cool thing to think that all these heroes exist and like they're rugged individuals and they all happen to come together and work for some purpose. But realistically, that can be very frustrating if you spent all that time creating a character who, in their bones, is going to want to kill another one of your players. Seriously, like, nothing derails your story faster. So in that session 0, have your players answer, don't give them the answer, have them answer the questions. Like, how do you all know each other? Why would you be adventuring together? Oh, who hasn't had a fond memory of sitting down to craft up the party charter? I guarantee you there's at least one person at your table that is going to be so pumped that there's going to be a party charter. I mean, come on, guys. It's D&D. Like, we're basically doing paperwork as a hobby. Getting your PCs together in a room gives them common cause. And if they have common cause, it's a lot harder for them to betray each other. If your PCs have a real reason to stick together, then odds are they will. You know, unless like one person at the table is just a real jerk. Number 3, don't take sides. Just remember, as a DM, even though you're invested, you are not the game world's defender. Look, I get it, man. We get invested in our worlds and we want them to go a certain way. We want the story to develop a certain way. Gosh, if these PCs would just listen, like, oh, the payoff is going to be so good. And like, I built this whole thing and like, who are you to show up and just start throwing sand in the gears? Once the game starts, you have to surrender control. You just have to. You have to. Because your players are going to get in there and they're going to mess everything up. And if you're trying to hold on to that rigid control, you're going to get burned out. Your players are going to feel frustrated. And they'll feel like they don't have any real choice in the world. So do yourself a favor, build a strong world, and then let the players take it wherever they're going to take it. I mean, these players, they make the most bonkers choices, but, you know, it's their lives to deal with, you know. And if they really get off the rails, you know, just remember that little tool that you've got in your arsenal as a DM, natural consequences. If you're trying to get them to liberate a village from an encroaching necromancy army, and they're too busy chasing a bugbear down a hole, that sounds like a weird game. I mean, let them do it. It just, you know, means that they're willing to let the village get completely overrun. And that will probably have consequences down the road. Number 4, your players may become dissatisfied if they feel like they're getting railroaded. What do I mean by that? Okay, so I mentioned earlier about the free choice. You know, this is like a choose-your-own-adventure story with unlimited options. So if you start taking away the player's ability to choose what they're going to do in a given situation, they're going to resent you for it. Oh, but man, we've all been there. Like, your group is heading right towards the correct door. They're going to open it. The big bad guy's there. You've got the soliloquy prepared. You got the speech. You've got a character. You put on the voice. You're like, get ready, heroes. You're about to meet your doom. And then at the last minute, when they're reaching for the door handle, the cleric says, you know, I think there was something funny about those 4 random nails that we found at the bottom of the treasure chest. We should go back and explore that. What are you doing? Just play the game the way I want you. Look, we all know that these sidetracks happen. And honestly, sometimes these sidetracks lead to the coolest moments. I played in a game once where I swear it was just a throwaway, but the DM said, oh yeah, there's a petting zoo across town. I don't know what he was thinking, because we spent the entire session trying to get to the bottom of why there was a petting zoo, and like, we're going to pet all the animals. Honestly, it had nothing to do with the story. It progressed absolutely nothing, but it was a blast, and isn't that what we're here to do? So, as the DM, you have the power. You could make rocks cave in the tunnel. You could do all kinds of things to make sure they open that door and get to the confrontation. But if you do that, suddenly your players feel like they don't have any choice. So if that party goes in there, whatever fate befalls them, they're going to put that squarely at your feet. If you go in, even if it's the dice, even if all your dice are out in the open and you're just seeing, you're rolling 20 after 20 after 20 after 20 against them, feels so good. But seriously, let's say you get that dreaded TPK. Game over. It's done. You lose, sir. You get nothing. Good day. The fact that you turned them around before they could go off and do something else and threw them in that room, they're going to blame you, and they're going to feel like they had no choice in the matter, that character death was inevitable, that you were just waiting to drop the guillotine blade right on their neck. Character deaths are hard enough to deal with without the feeling of inevitability. So don't railroad your players. If they want to go spend the entire session chasing after sheep in the meadow, sounds boring to me, but I guess that's what we're here to do. Hey guys, before I get to number 5, do me a favor, like and subscribe to the channel. Whether it's more DM tips and tricks you're after, or it's just some carefree bardic buffoonery, there's lots more coming. And as always, I want to hear from you. If you've got an adventure that you think is great to be immortalized in bardic song, let me know. Or if you know somebody, feel free to share this video with a friend. I don't care. I'm easy. Number 5, your PCs just are not invested in the world you're creating. Ask yourself, is this a campaign that anybody even wants? Like, here's where I get to wear my DM cone of shame. Long ago, in my early days, I created what I thought was going to be the coolest campaign ever. Crawling through the bowels of the earth. Gross. Trying to root out a scourge of absolute demonic grossness that was festering under a mountain. I told everybody, just pick whatever character you want, because in my mind I was like, anybody could be thrown into this position and then they'll rise to the occasion. So like the group got together, they walked inside, the whole tunnel collapsed behind them, they were trapped. I think you see where I'm going with this. How do you tell a forest ranger who specializes in tracking goblins in the woods that, yeah, you're going to be underground for the next 6 months? Whoopsie doodle. And how do you also tell the cleric of Mammon that there will be no commerce in this campaign? Now, don't get me wrong. Like, the campaign was a success. We made some adjustments, we moved forward, we made it work, and we had fun. But this is why that session 0 is so important. If your players are telling you, like, this is the character that I want to be, and these are the skills that I want to use, you owe it to your players to tell them, this is not the campaign for you. Or make some adjustments so that they'll be able to use their skills appropriately. Like, nothing is more memorable to your players than being able to use that, like, clutch skill in the perfect moment. Like the bard being able to talk their way out of jail. Or the rogue picks the pocket of the king and gets the key to the treasure room. Like, those moments are perfect, they're tailor-made, and they can't happen if players aren't allowed to use the skill that they really excel at. Make sure that there are those moments for every player at your table to really let their personal skills shine in those moments, and your PCs will come back for more every time. And there you have it. Now, these are not going to be the only pitfalls you ever experience as a DM, but if you address these things at a minimum, you'll get your players hooked, they'll want to come back, and they will have a good time, too. They'll feel invested in the story, they'll feel like the campaign makes sense to them, they won't be fighting with each other in real life. You'll have a great time. And when it comes time to schedule your next session, it will not come fast enough. Stay tuned for more tips and tricks from me, your Common House Bard. If you have a quibble with anything I've said, if you agree, if you heartily agree, if you heartily disagree, leave a comment. I would love to have the debate. There's a million DMs out there and a million different ways to do things. So hopefully some of what I said resonates with you, and if I can help you, man, that would make me so happy. If you want to check out some of my other DM series stuff, or if you're just in the market for a little lighthearted bardic buffoonery, and as always, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, friends, I am your Common House Bard, and now I shall go back to pretending I am writing in this journal. Cheers.